All right, so here we are on the recording, and I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. All right, so you should be able to see my slideshow with the senior living options as the first page. Perfect. Okay. Senior living options. Just a little bit about me. My name is Olga St Pierre. I am a senior real estate living specialist with Keller Williams Real Estate. And this is my focus for helping baby boomers, those that are in the process of getting ready to retire, as well as kind of heading in the direction or being retired, yet finding themselves on kind of figuring things out. I found that the information that is out there almost feels like a black hole. When you search for something, you find that you have a million different responses and it can be very much overwhelming. And the goal for this workshop and the others that I do in the senior living series, as well as other educational workshops, is to help you with the information that can be overwhelming, but just breaking it down and make it as easy as possible to understand. We have been helping our clients move across United States and Canada for the last 15 years. And our goal is to help you protect your biggest asset that you use during retirement, which is your home. Make sure that it's safe for you, that it is sustainable, and it's a safe environment for you. And then when the time comes, if you do need to make a move, we provide a complete move solution from start to finish, assisting you and partnering with you. And that's where our concierge service comes in. So think of us as your virtual yellow pages. If you need any contractor recommendations, any muscle just to help you maybe get things in boxes to go through, or organizers, anyone you can think of, this is where we are here to help you. It's absolutely no charge to you. We want to be there to make it as easy as possible for you. So that's a little bit about us. And here's the plan for today. We're going to talk about retirement options, some of the questions that I recommend that you should ask yourself. And of course, we're going to dive in and talk about different types of retirement living options, because there's tons of them that are out there. They're different. And some of the recommendations are where to kind of go next if you are in that journey. I am a big believer in having a notebook. I am more of an old school about it. In fact, I have mine right here in front of me right now on jotting things down. And if you don't have one that you're using for your retirement planning and taking notes, I do recommend that you get one. It's a lot easier for you to jot down your concerns, your thoughts, and maybe if you have things that you need to get done, making a list rather than just keeping it in your head where it kind of rattles back and forth and making you even more anxious. So set aside a notebook for your planning. That way it's easier and it's all in one place. And it's also going to be a little bit easier on your mind and making you less anxious. So a couple of questions that I'm sure you probably have running through your head that I wanted to put out there and kind of give you some food for thought. One of the most things that I hear most commonly is that I am very comfortable in my current home, and it's going to be best place for me to live in my post-retirement years. And what I want you to think about is this fact, is that the home, maybe you've been in this home for 30, 40, or even more years. And that is the home that you bought when you were perhaps starting your family, or you already had a family and you were looking for something larger. And you were excited because it had a large yard. You were able to put a garden, and maybe it was a great place for your kids for the swing and to run around. And now that home and that yard may look really big because you still have to take care of it, right? So the ideal home overall is going to evolve for you throughout your lifetime based on where you are in your life journey. So could it be possibly that your home is too large Could it be that the steps that you have going into the basement for your storage of laundry are harder on your knees and your feet? And that yard is just too big to take care of, and maybe you're not being able to keep up. So sometimes the home is not going to be where you are and where you need it to be right now because of where you are in your journey. And also remember that your home is going to age as well with you. So this is where we start talking about things like making renovations and updates to your home because of the age of the roof and siding and heating and air conditioning. So just some food for thought for you. The next one is, my current home is the best option to continue as I'm going to have that active social life and stay connected with my friends in the years ahead. And this is where I caution you to have a great conversation with your friends, get together with them and ask them, say, hey, I am just looking at some different options, and I want to ask you, what are you planning on doing? Do you plan on staying in your home, or maybe you're thinking about something else? You might be surprised about the decisions that your friends are also thinking about, and their decisions may vary from yours. They may say, you know what, we don't want to stay here because maybe our health is preventing us from staying in our home. Perhaps we may want to move closer to family where our kids and our grandkids are. And what you think may be what makes sense to you may not make sense to others. Your home is going to be less expensive and more financially secure for you to stay there. Well, this is where I'm going to make a suggestion for you to go ahead and create a budget if you don't have one, and do some comparison. And this is what we're also going to talk about today with Dan, is what I want you to think about is past the fact that you have no mortgage, which is a big chunk, of course, but you also will always have monthly expenses to maintain your home and to keep going. And when you put those things on paper, especially if those expenses are going to involve with including updating your home, if you think about it, right now, if you were to put a new heating and air conditioning system to make sure that you have appropriate heating and cooling, it's going to cost you at least $10,000 to $12,000. If you're looking to put on a new roof, that could be between $10,000 and $20,000, depending on the size, the square footage of your home. Windows are at least $1,000 each one, right? So these are the prices that I'm seeing right now. And a lot of the times you're going to have to put 50% down first on the project and then pay it off in the next couple of days after the project is done. So do you have the ability to do that where some of these repairs may not be an option, but an actual necessity? So when you write things down as a pros and cons of staying in your home and what your actual monthly expenses are now and what they may be in the future because you have to do some of these repairs, it may or may not make sense for you to stay in your home. And the last one is, it would be easy for me to get the care that I need at home. It may not be that simple because you will need to have multiple doctors and nurses to help you do the coordination. Perhaps you may need some personal care at home. And as you get older, keeping track of all those things may not be that easy. So, and what we don't want to do is things falling through the cracks, some doctors not knowing important information that is important for them to make a care decision, and then those decisions affecting your quality of life. So food for thought, and this is where you really need to do some thinking and writing things down. So the first thing that my clients are always telling me, Olga, I'm just going to stay at home. It feels the most comfortable. It's really is the best. And a lot of people tell me, you know what, you can help my family carrying me out of here in the box. And I would love nothing less than that. However, in many cases, that does not happen because overnight something happens, you may fall or trip or end up in the hospital, and then you have to make some important decisions and have them do quickly. So here's some food for thought, like a little bit of a guide that I want you to look at, is if you do want to stay at home, the first thing you need to ask yourself, is your home safe for you where you are right now in your life journey and where you are with your health journey? And then I also want you to think about is where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, most importantly, pertaining to your health. The leading cause of death for seniors who are age of 65 and older is falling. When you're falling and you trip and you, God forbid, break a hip or something happens, you end up in the hospital, then you have to go to a rehab to get back on your feet. There's quite often the times where the doctors tell, you know what, you cannot go back to your home anymore. And this is where we need to scramble and make decisions. So I recommend that you get a home safety assessment done to see if there's any modifications that are needed to your home. I have a free form for you that you can use. You're more than welcome to, that I will add to our resources that you can go ahead and request to do that. Or if you need help with that, also you can let me know and I'll put you in touch with the professionals that can do that. You want to make sure that your home is safe. That is the #1 goal. Number 2 is the access to healthcare and personal care, companion healthcare, skilled nursing, if you need help with health-related items or maybe with some activities of daily living. Number 3, you need to think about the financial resources to fund your living. And this is where talking about budgeting and thinking about where your funds are and how much money do you have overall to help you live a safe and healthy and also productive retirement years. And these are some of the things where, you know, you need to know what Medicare covers and what it doesn't cover. Requirements that you would have to meet: physician-created care plan, private insurance, or you own funds. So all of those things matter. And then, you know, it would be helpful that you put it all kind of in the spreadsheet. So that way it's all in one, you know, all on one page. The next one to consider is access to transport. If right now you're driving, that's great. But do you think that may change in the next 5 to 10 years? And if you do need to get transport and have someone else do it, is this something that your family member or friend going to be able to do? Or are you going to have to request medical transport, which means that it's going to cost you some money, and who is going to pay for it? And the last one, which is not the least important one, but actually one of the most important ones, is access to social interaction. Being able to talk to others, to play some games, have lunch together. Socialization is critical for you in your retirement. Staying active and busy and doing some exercise, some form of wellness and exercise is imperative. You should at least have 30 minutes of some kind of movement every day, because movement is what's going to keep your body young. And that really is the goal. So here are the questions that I want you to consider when you are looking at all of your options. And this is why I'm going to send you this workbook, so that way you can take your time, open to this page, and use your retirement journal to answer these things. Right? And this is just some of the questions that I would suggest that you ask yourself, and you have an appointment with yourself to sit down with a cup of coffee or tea, and you start thinking these things through. Now, it's going to take you some time to work through these, because these are not the easy questions to ask as well as easy answers to get, yet they're critically important. And I encourage you to be honest with yourself and tell yourself, you know what, right now I have no issues with driving, but my eyesight is getting worse. Or maybe some other condition is going to prevent me from driving safely. What does that mean for me, and how am I going to address it? Are you starting to have difficulties climbing your steps and keeping up with home maintenance and yard work? No matter how great that yard is, there's always other options. If, let's say, you still want to be in your own home, but perhaps downsizing to something smaller may be a good option. There's always an option. You just need to look at it and jot down some of your thoughts and ideas on each of these things. So these are the questions that I want you to start with. And then you add your own thoughts and questions, because each of you is going to have a very different situation, perspective, thoughts and ideas, and also where you are in your life journey. Okay, so now let's talk about some general things. So I love this graph because it gives you a bird's eye view on all different options that if you were to either stay in your home and get personal home care, start with that, maybe then head over to adult daycare where you get some interaction, social activities, or you may actually make a move and head into like independent living, and then depending on your health concerns, maybe go in a different direction. So when you get the workbook, do take a look at it, compare it, and see which of these options are important to you now, and then what is going to be important to you down the road, and jot some of things down. So now I'm going to stop sharing because this is where we have a true professional with us. So that way we can actually talk about some of these options and what and why are they so important. Okay, so Dan, where are you on my screen?
I am here. I just need to be made a host.
Yep, you got it. 1 second. Let me do that.
Okay.
And we're going to make sure that you are the front and center speaker. Perfect. If you can just introduce yourself to us and tell us who you are and what you do best, and then we are going to get moving.
Great.
Awesome.
Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful day. Hope everybody's well. Can you all see my screen? Senior Living Options, Senior Care Authority?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you, Olga. So we are a placement service. There is no charge for what we do, but we help families decide which independent living, assisted living, or memory care community is right for them, or maybe none of them. Maybe staying home is right. So we help with that process. And as I said, there's no charge for our service. The communities pay us for that. So, as Olga said, planning is essential. We're going to go through these items here, and I'm going to go pretty quickly. If you want to ask a question, just jump in, unmute yourself, and ask away. You can interrupt me. It won't throw me off. Or you could use the chat feature if you're more comfortable with that. But please don't hesitate to interrupt me. As I said, I might talk a little too fast. I lived in New York for a long time, so just like Olga, didn't you also, I think? Start with independent living. Now, I know some of these, or many, maybe all of them you're familiar with. Maybe you have friends or family who live in independent living communities. These are freestanding, limited amenity communities typically. But what do I mean by limited amenity? Meaning they'll provide housekeeping, perhaps. They may come in and do sheets and towels. They may provide 2 or 3 meals a day. And they may have some things that assisted living has, but not everything, such as a physical therapy, occupational therapy, company, agency inside the community. And maybe you've seen Parker's Bend or Farmstead, you've watched those go up. There's a bunch of them now. It's very active in South Jersey right now. These independent living communities are popping up all over the place, which is great news for seniors, because many seniors don't want to stay in their house. It's too much upkeep. It's too much money. They don't need it anymore. They want to use that time for pleasurable activities. They want to engage with other seniors. So independent living is a perfect option for someone who's not in need of assistance, medical, any kind of clinical assistance, but doesn't want to cook 3 meals a day anymore, or doesn't want to clean their own place or do their own laundry, wants to use that time for enjoyment. And so those are independent living communities. And as I said, they're just popping up all over the place. Farmstead and Parker's Bend are 2 of the more recent ones that have opened. And we've placed a few people in them, and they love it. They're having a great time. And they differ. Independent living differs from assisted living. Here, the senior needs some help. It may be something just as simple as getting around. Olga said something in passing that is so true. Falls are the #1 killer of people, of seniors, people over the age of 65. Not cancer, not heart disease, not diabetes, not Alzheimer's disease, falls. My mother was 92 and she fell. and that ultimately resulted in her death. It's very common. I had a cousin die this year from a fall. He didn't die right away, but as Olga says, he fell, he went into a rehab, and he just declined in his health, and there was no reason for it. So assisted living helps people ambulate, but they also help with what's called activities of daily living. You may see that in your insurance policy, ADLs. And those are like cooking, cleaning, bathing, dressing, activities of daily living. They help with all of that. They also help with medication management. If the senior is taking medication and maybe he's having a little bit of trouble remembering, again, going back to my mom, she was on a drug called Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. It's a very dangerous drug if it's not taken properly. And she had an incident and she wound up in the hospital for a week. Fortunately, she came out, but she had taken one pill too many. So they help with medication management. They also help with transportation. They will typically provide rides to doctor's appointments and so forth within, say, a 10-mile radius. But beyond that, they also provide transportation. I think there's somebody trying to get in, Olga, I'll admit them. They'll provide transportation to the mall. They'll go on outings to the beach or to Atlantic City. In residents, they just get on the bus and everything's taken care of. That goes under the heading of group activities. And boy, do they have group activities, exercise classes, movies, entertainment. There's a list every day, every single day of the week. They post a list of things that can be done. So it's really if somebody's interested in living an active lifestyle and having things taken care of for them. They also have, typically, they'll have a podiatrist, a physician, usually a geriatrician, a dentist, pharmacist, optometrist come in one day a week so that if somebody in the community wants to use those people as their primary care doctor, primary care, the dentist, whatever, it's there for them. If they want to keep theirs, they can keep theirs. But it's nice to have that there. What I want to say now is very important because people, there we go. Assisted living and memory care. These communities are not nursing homes. And I hear that a lot. I hear, I'll never go get a nursing home. That's not for me. My mom's not going in a nursing home. These aren't nursing homes. These are, I like to say they're like hotels, like 4 or 5-star hotels. Many have, go back, many will have a beautiful lobby. I think this is a Brandywine, for example. They'll have places where residents can gather and socialize. The rooms are clean, sometimes spacious. They can be small, but they can also be very spacious depending on what you want to pay for. They'll have things like, this is not supposed to be advancing. Right there you see on the top right, a movie theater, and they'll have 2 movies a day. It's amazing. And all types of clubs and activities if the resident chooses. If the resident just wants to, stay on their own, that's fine too. Typically, people who move into these communities find 1 or 2 or 3 friends, or they'll join a club and they stay with their group. This is about demographics. So about half of the residents are over 85. The other half are under 85 years of age, and even 6% are under 65 years of age. So you see a nice spread in the demographics. I was speaking with a gentleman who's 103 years old last week. He was in the Battle of the Bulge, and sharp as can be. And he was sitting with his friend who was a Korean War veteran, and we were joking like, "Oh, that war, that was a recent war." The Battle of the Bulge, that was old school, and he has some great stories. But as I say, they found each other, they're good buddies, and they were sitting around outside having iced tea. Memory care is a different type of community. Now, this is typically, most of the residents here are Alzheimer's disease. Charges for both assisted living and memory care that the communities collect are based on the levels of care. So if somebody needs all of their activities of daily living, bathing, toileting, dressing, medication management, they're going to be charged at a higher rate than the resident who only maybe needs one activity of daily living. Same is true with memory care. If the resident is in the mild stage of Alzheimer's disease, for example, then they would be charged at a lower rate than someone who is in the severe stages. Some of the memory care communities are divided. They'll put mild, moderate, and severe patients in different communities, and they don't interact with each other. Others, it's a blended community, and they interact with each other, and in some cases with the assisted living folks who do not have memory difficulties. So they're just all different. What's important about memory care, though, is that you have good staff that are trained, and these aides are fantastic. They may not have college educations. They didn't go to medical school or nursing school. They may, who knows, they may not have even finished high school, but boy, do they know how to take care of patients with dementia. I see it, and they're so good at it, and they are, for the most part, very caring people. They really are angels of mercy. I'm in these communities all the time, and they really, really know what they're doing. They do a very good job at it. Like assisted living, they have transportation, on-site medical, other services, and they'll try to tailor things on a day-to-day basis for the patient. So if there's an Alzheimer's patient who like to cook, they'll involve them in cooking activities if they can, stirring and mixing. Sometimes it's just folding laundry. I've seen that, patients just fold laundry all day, and they like that. And so rather than sitting home, doing nothing, watching TV, they're actually active, living the best life they can with that disease. Next type of living option is continuous care retirement community, CCRC. They're all different, but typically there's a buy-in cost. You buy a house. My brother just bought a small one-bedroom house in a CCRC. And across the street from the houses is a large building with assisted living capabilities. So he will need assisted living then over the next few years because of some medical issues. But for the next 3, 5, 7 years, he wants to live alone in his house. And when he needs to move over, he can move over. So he's sort of in an independent living situation, but he's getting 3 meals a day. He can use the gym. He can participate in their activities. He likes movies. He'll go to the movie theater and watch movies. And when the time comes, he can move to assisted living. So if he decides he doesn't want to stay there anymore, he can leave, and they will refund 90% of the cost of his house. Likewise, if he bought an apartment in the community, they would give him 90% back. Typically, there's another option. It's a lower priced option for buy-in, but you get less back depending on how long you live there. They're all different, and you need to have your lawyer look at the CCRCs. For all of these places, memory care and assisted living, they are contracts. You should have them look at. The difference is with independent living, assisted living, and memory care, you can move out anytime you want. It's a month-to-month situation. Here, because of the buy-in, you want to make sure that contract is well written so that if you do decide to leave, you get your 90% back. So communities can be blended, meaning that they'll have all 4 of these options: independent living, assisted living, memory care, CCRC. Lionsgate is an example. The community my brother went in is more typical: independent living and assisted living. Most have assisted living and memory care. So, 1, 2, 3, 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I understand it's confusing, and that's where we come in. We sit down with you and try to understand your needs, your clinical needs, your social preferences, your budgets, and then we'll help you by touring. And we'll tour typically with 2, 3 communities. If you don't see something you like, we'll tour with 2 or 3 more. So we help with this confusing process. So let's talk just briefly about Medicare. This is not my area of expertise, But you all know probably that Medicare will cover, home health aid services. They'll give you up to 8 hours a day for a total of 28 hours a week. And in special cases, you can get 35 hours a week. And they'll help with activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, toileting, and may give, if you're a care provider right now, a care partner, it may give you some relief when the aid is there. Medicare, you must use an approved home health agency, approved by Medicare. There are many. Recipient must be homebound, and they have to have a certification from a physician or medical professional. It's not that complicated to do and be under a doctor's care plan. Now, that's for staying home. Now, nursing homes are a completely different animal. We call them skilled nursing facilities. They're really for long-term care or end-of-life care, hospice care. They're under a doctor's supervision all the time. Same level of nursing care as in a hospital. They're very similar to hospitals. And they're typically used for recovery after an illness, injury, or surgery. And they may include physical, occupational, or speech therapy. So just briefly, physical therapy is focused on improving the patient's ability to move their body, whereas occupational therapy focuses on improving patient's ability to perform specific activities, dressing, bathing, eating, activities of daily living. That's why if you've seen them, they may have a little car in there so that people can practice getting in and out of the car, or steps so they can practice going up and down steps safely. Rehab centers are inpatient or outpatient, similar to nursing homes. They have PT, OT, and speech therapy. And they're more short-term than nursing homes typically. And the focus is to get the patient back to the community. Maybe they've had a fall, fell on their shoulder, hurt their shoulder, and they need to get back, need to get some therapy and back out into the community. Now, Medicare and Medicaid are not the same thing. So I'm going to go real quickly so you just have an understanding of the two and how maybe Medicaid could benefit you in the future. So Medicare is a federal government program. It is the exact same in every single state in the United States, Hawaii to Alaska. Whatever state you're in, Medicare is exactly the same. The rules, the payments, they don't change. So I'm not going to spend any time on this, but these are, things you may or may not know. It's not my area of expertise. I'm happy to share my slides with anyone. And, I can even connect you with people who are Medicare, Medicaid experts, because everybody's situation is a little different. However, Medicaid is different than Medicare. Every state's Medicaid is a little different. We in New Jersey, our Medicaid is different than Pennsylvania's Medicaid. It's actually, for these long-term care communities that we're discussing, it's better. I'll show you why. So for New Jersey residents, see this line up top? Every facility licensed to operate as assisted living residence or comprehensive personal care home has to reserve 10% of its total bed complement for use by Medicaid eligible persons. And Medicaid in New Jersey covers it. By covered, I mean they provide money to the community for that bed. In Pennsylvania, if you run out of money, you're out. They do not cover it. Now, the rules for Medicaid are rather, the asset limit and the income limit are pretty low. The asset limit is $2,000 and the income limit is $2,829. So if your Social Security is over that, generally don't qualify. This is complicated stuff, and there are ways to make yourself eligible for Medicaid. You need to talk to an elder law attorney. We have a number that we can recommend. attorneys who specialize in elder law. They can set up a plan for you and your family for the future. And as Olga said, this is all about planning. If you think you're going to need to go into assisted living or memory care, like my brother did, and you want to set up, say, a trust for family, maybe you have children and you want to protect your assets, you don't want the community taking all your assets, the elder law attorney can help you set that up so that you would then qualify for Medicaid. They do look backs and all this other stuff. I'm not going to get into that. It's not my area of expertise, but I really encourage you, if you have some assets, go to one of these specialists. It's money well spent.
Deanna, I have a quick question too on the other
Please.
slide. See how it says asset limit, it says 2,000, is it 2,000 per month? Where, you know, where it says,
That's no, the income limit is different than the asset limit. So if you have $5,000 in your savings account, you wouldn't qualify for Medicaid.
okay, so that's basically total money that you have in your checking, savings, and so forth.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there's different things that can be done. And as I say, I'm not an expert. They have various types of trusts, Miller trusts and irreconcilable trusts. It really depends on your family situation. It's complicated, and that's where the attorneys, that's what they do. Another thing, if you are a veteran or your spouse was a veteran, something that's not talked about a lot is aid and attendance. And the VA certainly doesn't promote it. I had a 97-year-old client, and he was a World War II veteran. And I'm sorry, a Korean War veteran. He didn't know anything about it, and he was eligible for it. So I connected him with a specialist that I know of who does this, and he got $2,300 extra a month on top of his pension. So it qualified him for one of the communities. So he was able to go in a community. Everything would be paid for by his Social Security and this aid and attendance. So you would have had to have served during a wartime. You wouldn't have had to go to war. You could have been here in Fort Dix during the Vietnam War. That counts. And one day, only one day. That's all you could have served for, one day in Fort Dix during the Vietnam War, and you qualify for aid and attendance. However, there is an asset limit and an income limit. But for people who don't have a lot of assets, or if they've been able to plan with the elder law attorney, this is a good option. So again, I do have people who specialize in this. Not my area of expertise. I know a little bit about it, but I could connect you to people who will just, you'd explain your situation to them and they will tell you if you have options. So I'm pretty much done. I just want to say, navigating this scenario is very complicated and confusing. In South Jersey, Philadelphia area that I cover, there's well over 100 options. And really, there aren't going to be 100 options that are ideal for the senior. So what we do is we sit down, or we'll talk on the phone, or we'll meet, get to understand clinical needs, your social preferences, your financial assets, and location where you want to be. Maybe it's near a loved one, and we'll help you find the right place: independent living, assisted living, memory care. And if you don't see what you like, we'll go back out again, and maybe you'll just decide to age in place. I don't know, but we can help with that also. And I jumped ahead, but there are a lot of variables. Do they do insulin injections? Some communities don't. Some communities don't have lifts for non-ambulating residents. What is their Medicaid policy? We know all of this. We have contracts with all of these communities. And as I said, there's no charge for our services. And we have wonderful connections with elder law attorneys and home care agencies and senior real estate specialists like Olga, which is so important. Not to just go to the guy down the street. You really want a specialist for this. So if there are any questions, I'll take them now.
No, this is great. Dan, can you stop sharing so that way we can talk? This way
Oh,
we can
I'm
see you
sorry.
better.
Give me a second. I'm not trying to hog the screen. I'm just looking for the unshare. There it is. Okay.
Perfect. So I think just kind of the last thing to wrap up is number one, what I want you to remember is the fact that this is not a one and done, something quick decision, trying to figure things out. This is where it's important for you just to sit down, grab a notebook and write down your thoughts, your plans, if you have maybe time frames. It's also important to have a conversation with your loved ones to see if they're close, maybe can you rely on them to help you with this, or is it also make sense for you to rely on professionals that ask these questions and help you and guide you, like someone like Dan. Definitely do safety assessment checklist and have an appointment to kind of figure things out and see where your home is right now. I would also suggest that you evaluate your monthly expenses, whether you plan on doing something or not. I think just having a budget and general idea is super important. And that's going to be part of our free resources where we're going to provide you with the link. And also take your time and, talk to Dan because his services don't cost anything, and see if maybe it makes sense for you to visit some of these communities, because you really don't know what they offer and how they're set up until you actually physically go there. That's important. So, these are kind of the things that we talk about. And this particular class right now that we have is an overview. And as you can see, there is a million little details that go into it. So this is where we suggest that you sit down and figure out what are some of your concerns and questions and who may be the right person to talk to, because you don't have to do it alone. There are professionals that are able to help you and guide you. So this is, I think, the most important message that is coming out of it, out of the class today. So questions, I think we probably had some questions when people registered as well. So let me just take a look at the chat and see what we have going on. Okay, yeah, we had quite a few. Okay, questions from the registration. And I think, Dan, you covered that. Somebody would like to learn more about living options with tiered care. That's what we were talking about, right? Depending on how much level of care that you need, right?
If that's what they mean by tiered care, yeah, each community has their own way of doing it. Typically, there's like 3 levels. Some have as many as 7 levels of care, and some even have one price for all levels of care. So, it's a little complicated, and because these communities are all run by different, sometimes large corporations run them, and sometimes an individual will run them. So I'm happy to help with any of that. And if any of these questions, Olga, just whatever I can do, they can email me. I didn't put my email in the slide deck because I thought it'd be a little complicated, but they can call me or email me. And maybe we could put that out there somehow.
Yeah, what we're going to do is when we send out the recording, we're going to include your contact information as part of the resources so people can reach out to you whichever way they feel comfortable.
Yeah, I see a couple of questions about lawyers, which
Yes,
I would give 3 choices, and you could interview them, and whichever one you feel is right, and all of that. So
someone else said if there's any different suggestions for planning for someone who is a solo ager. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Olga?
A solo ager, somebody who is on their own.
Yeah, I mean, depending on whether they need assistance or not, do they need assisted living or can they live independently? If they can live independently, I would take them to either Kristen or I would take them to 3 independent living communities with it that would be within their budget or within what they want to spend, and see what they think. Probably have a meal there, see if they like the food, look at the apartments. But if they need assisted living, then it's a different question. What do they need assistance with? How much? Then it's a whole other thing.
Right. Someone else mentioned a 1-floor apartment independent living for active seniors. I
That's
think
what
they're pretty
they're
much all
all
that way. Yeah,
they're all one floor.
right.
There's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 1 community has studios. Yeah, and there's one that just is going to open in a few months that is for it's really focuses on active seniors. And then the others are less about that.
For sure. Someone else mentioned about financing the cost of senior living and of course choosing a place and costs. And this is where you would come in, where you guys talk about all of that. You say, okay, depending on, and also different communities, as we know, have different floor plans. If you're looking for something that is a studio or maybe 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom or 1 bedroom and a den, all of them have different costs and plans. So until you visit them and kind of get some idea, you're not going to get a feel for it. So this is why, having a visit, making plans like that is very important. And there's really no commitment. You're just trying to get a feel for what these communities offer, for sure.
In fact, there's no commitment after you move in. Typically, it's month to month. One of the independent living communities wants an 18-month lease, but typically it's month to month. And that goes for assisted living, memory care. Somebody's not happy, they just leave.
Exactly. And Kathleen, your question is about senior apartment communities. So there are some of them, depending on your area, where they're rentals. Some people may not be able to afford to go into a senior community because of the cost restrictions, and that's perfectly understandable. So depending on where you are, if you want some recommendations, I will take a look and see and make some suggestions for you as well. And Joanne was asking about the names of the elder care attorney. We absolutely have them and can provide you some good options to talk to an interview. And Dan is 100% correct. We provide a few different options. So that way, just like when you talk to a contractor and get quotes for work to be done, you definitely need to interview attorneys, accountant, someone who is going to help you on your journey, because you may not connect with them and you want to make sure that you feel comfortable in talking to them about making these decisions, and you feel comfortable with that. So that's our recommendations for sure. Let me see what else we have. Yeah, remember, this is kind of like a team effort. It takes a village, and every professional specializes in their own field. So let us know what you're looking for. And this is what we're talking about, having a concierge service and providing you with the local resources, not just something on a national level, because the information is so specific and different state to state. And that's important to understand. All right. Anybody has anything else that they want to add, ask questions? If you're welcome to just throw it in the chat, or if you want to do it as a personal one-on-one, we're going to provide you all of our information, and you're more than welcome to ask them after as well. This is what we're here for, is to provide you and arm you with the information and the resources, so that way you can make the best decisions for yourselves based on your personal situation and circumstances. Okay, Kathleen is asking about the price range of independent living. Dan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Let's take Seton Voorhees as sort of the lower end. They provide 2 meals a day. They have activities, and you can get a studio apartment for about $3,100 a month. And that includes laundry. They'll wash the sheets and towels, not your clothing, but there's facilities where you could do your own clothing. It's just been renovated. So the walls, the floors, the carpeting is all new. And as I say, it's either 2 or 3. They make meals a day. I know it's lunch and dinner. I'm not sure if they have a buffet breakfast or just croissants, that kind of thing, muffins. But in any event, you won't go hungry there. They have activities. They bring in entertainment. They have an in-house aid agency, but it's a separate company. They just happen to be in-house. They have a physical therapy, occupational therapy company. Again, it's an independent group, but it's there. So that's the lower. The higher end would be farmstead. And there, for a 1-bedroom, we're at about $7,000, $7,200. It is a beautiful building. And I will tell you, I've had many dinners there. The food is excellent. It's really good. So simply put, let's say between $3,200 and $7,200, and you could probably pay a little more at Farmstead. I believe they have garages for your car.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not all used up, there'll be a little 1-car garage. Charging stations if you have an electronic vehicle. Some nice amenities, and it's out. There's a farm surrounding it, so it's beautiful. Anyway, long-winded answer. $3,200.
Yeah, that place feels more like a luxury hotel. They even have raised garden beds that if you want to garden, and balconies. Yeah, I visited. It's really, really amazing. And
It's
you know
beautiful.
what? Before you guys, because I know a lot of us think the first thing when we hear those prices, we're like, oh wow, that's just too much. I can't afford it. This is where you need to really sit down and figure out what your expenses are right now, where you have to do it all yourself and coordinate and get contractors, the landscapers, and things like that, versus having that all done for you.
And
right?
Olga, on that point, most of these include utilities, basic cable, electric. No, your taxes, all those things have to be taken into account. You know, for my brother, it was a wash. He moved into a beautiful new house, and when he added up all his things that he was paying for at his house, taxes, maintenance, etc., it turned out to be he's living better for about the same amount of money.
Exactly. So it's an easier, really stress-free living where you don't have to worry about a lot of things that you typically would. You just don't realize how nice and freeing it is where these things are being taken care of for you and you just enjoy yourself. So just definitely food for thought. It may not be for everybody, but it's a great option for a lot of people. So just doing some comparison and kind of working through those things is very important, and working on having a budget and figuring out your expenses. So because
we're happy to tour. There won't be any. We're not high pressure salespeople. We're happy to tour. We'll show it to you, and if you're interested, you'll call us back. We're not. You're not going to be getting called, 3 times a week. Did you change your mind? Are you ready? We're not. We don't do that. Neither does Olga. We're here to help.
For sure. All right. Anything else? I think these were all the questions that we had from the registrations and in the chat. I think we talked about it. We'll provide you with all the resources and the questions that you asked. Dan's contact information is going to be in the email. You can reach out to him anytime to ask maybe personal questions or talk to him in private about your concerns and worries. This is what we do. We try to ease your worries and concerns, answer your questions so that way you can make the best decisions for yourselves. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed another class on how to retire and live well. The goal is to help you enjoy your retirement and have the best golden years ever. We're here for you, and then we will see you another time. Thank you so much. And Dan, always great to see you as usual.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you. Nice seeing everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.